Hello and welcome to Ask the Icon, a live web series, first of its kind in India, designed exclusively for working professionals. I'm Kaushik Majumder, your host, an author and workplace challenge consultant. Needless to say that the impact of the pandemic all over the world has pushed us into a situation, into a time which is unprecedented. And if you are a working professional, then you must be a worried person today. I'm sure you have a lot of questions with very little clarity. You are looking for specific solution to your specific challenge. And that's exactly we intend to achieve on every episode of Ask the Icon. The idea behind Ask the Icon is to make a difference in the lives of working professionals by helping them with specific solutions to their challenges. And specific solution calls for specialized knowledge, skills, and experience. On every episode of Ask the Icon, a guest icon, one of the movers and shakers from the corporate world, would join us live on Facebook and would address your questions, your queries, your specific questions and queries that you post on my social media accounts. So without further delay, I would like to introduce you to today's guest icon. Our today's guest is a highly acclaimed academician, a celebrated human resource leader, an eloquent speaker with more than 2 decades experience in both corporate and academia. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to present our today's guest icon. She is the Executive Vice President and Chief Human Resource Officer at Datamatics Global Services Limited, Dr. Rima Ghose Chaudhary. Thank you very much, Dr. Ghose, for joining us on today's episode of Ask the Icon. Before your opening comments, with your permission, I got a question for you. Yep. So, can you hear me, Dr. Ghose?
Yes, okay. I can.
So I'll just quickly ask a question, then hand it over to you for your opening comments. The question is, as the head of the HR department in one of Mumbai's prestigious institution, your role was to help the students build their future. And as a head of HR department in one of India's leading industrial house, your role is to help the employees build their career. Now the question is, between these two roles, which one you find more rewarding and satisfying? Over to you, Dr. Ghose, for your opening comments, please.
Okay, I'm wondering which one to answer first. But I have not been asked this question before, and this is something which makes me think. So let me do the thinking in one part of my brain. So first of all, Kaushik, I would like to thank you for giving me this platform and this opportunity to interact and interact with the audience, which is essentially the working professionals. So in current times, while there are challenges and unprecedented challenges, incidentally, we are all in the same boat. Our struggles are somewhere pretty much the same at some plane or the other. Now, while nothing can parallel the energy that you actually get in a face-to-face interaction in maybe a conference or a place like that, but I think the event that you have curated, the Facebook Live event, is a very, very close second in today's digitally savvy times. So I would like to congratulate you for that, for thinking of this and for connecting all of us together. And like I have told you earlier also in my interactions with you, you're always very lavish with words. I guess that's how authors are. And Ask the Icon certainly sounds very, very iconic. But I must say that sharing experiences is always very, very enriching for everybody, and there is always something to learn, something to co-create, learning, unlearning, relearning, since all of that is a continuous process. So these kinds of platforms just facilitate those processes. Yeah? Thank you for that. And I must also say that I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to dress up after almost 2 months of corona-induced house arrest. So that also comes as quite a welcome relief. I must admit that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. I've never thought that I'll get this kind of credit in my whole life. But anyway, which credit comes in the way is always welcome.
Yeah. So
And
going back to your question.
I
Yeah.
mean, you can pass it if you think that that's a question. Don't have right now. You can't have any answer, but you can pass it, or I mean, it's up to you.
No, that's absolutely fine. So there are these thoughts that keep coming to my mind, But let me also tell you that in my case, what has happened is just like when I was a professor, an HOD of HR, a typical academician's role, I was never really away from the corporate world. From that time also, there have been events and occasions where either I was speaking in panels or I was doing these speed mentoring sessions for women professionals of couple of organizations, or putting together some kind of a strategic roadmap for some organization, or maybe helping somebody with starting off of a mentorship journey in the organization. So I was always connected to the corporate world. And if I have to go back to my present times, come back to present times, let me also tell you that even now I have my students around me. Well, virtually, there are a couple of people who are doing projects in my organization, and then there are people who seek suggestions, etc., over LinkedIn. They feel free to call me, so they know that I'm there for them. So a relationship which has been made once is going to be there forever. So for me, it has been quite a bit of a seamless thing, so to say, which is why probably it's difficult for me to distinguish between what I enjoy more or what is more enriching, because both of them have their own sets of satisfaction. On one hand, there is a bunch of fresh professionals, and on the other hand, there are seasoned professionals. But I come in at the same level for everybody, which is to support in their journey to success. Yeah.
True. And so before we move on to the question answer session, just those of you who have not read my book, The Process Pro, it's a 360-degree perspective on corporate systems and process. For the book, I have interviewed 35 smartest minds of our country and incorporated their views in it about process and systems. So Dr. Ghose was kind to share her invaluable inputs for the readers and made the book a must read. So if you have not read it yet, you can order your copy on Amazon once the lockdown is over. So, Dr. Ghose, on this show, I'm going to ask you questions that I received from the viewers who are mostly working professionals. So, do I have your permission to proceed with the Ask the Icon, please?
Absolutely. I look forward to it. And I must thank all of the viewers who are here today, spending their valuable time. And I just hope that the answers or some of the solutions that I have to provide here would be useful for you and relevant for you. And I'm happy to note that all of you are safe and fine. Yeah. Over to you, Kaushik.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So the first question comes from Tanveer Ahmed. The question is, traditionally in India, outside IT industry, not many industries were matured enough in terms of systems and process to adapt the work from home concept. Studies suggest that employees are less productive working from home than working from office. What would be your suggestion to get optimum performance from the employees? So have you got the question?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have.
Yep.
So I would like to put it this way, that the current times has actually forced us to think differently in multiple ways, right? In multiple ways. So there were some age-old beliefs that we had about work from home. So remember, traditionally, the Indian households, the Indian homes are not really geared up for a great work from home kind of a scenario. Not that all of us are blessed with palatial homes where there would be separate suites for work and there would be workplaces and workstations allocated for each one of us, where nobody would disturb us, nobody would come to seek an opinion at home, no kids, nothing. It's not like that, right? These are much smaller homes. We don't always have allocated spaces. And of course, the need for privacy that a professional might seek, that may not always be managed in Indian households. So that had been the traditional belief. And that's one belief which has caused innumerable debates, even on national television at times. That is, work from home the right kind of strategy for us or not? And then some companies adopted, some didn't, some adopted and then again went back to earlier ways. All of that has happened. IT, as you rightly said, is one of the sectors which has consistently been adopting this approach. Not 100%. We have seen even the giants struggle with this sudden situation of lockdown, where there was tremendous pressure on the IT operations, admin, HR to enable work from home for everybody, which simply means that people were not prepared for it, even the IT sector. But when it comes to the other sectors who are kind of grappling with the new reality and trying to make things work, your question was, how do they do that? How can it be achieved? So I would say here, three main things that have kind of helped organizations, or should help organizations, is the fact that there is a renewed focus on three foundations, three pillars basically. And these are flexibility, trust, and communication. So I'll elaborate a little bit. So when it comes to flexibility, right, we have suddenly started respecting the needs of flexibility that professionals have. So for the first time, when I was faced with that scenario, that whether I should accept a meeting request, which is at 1:30 p.m. when I was actually in the kitchen, I was doing something, and I had to tell my colleagues that, can we have it after 1 hour? Now, this is something which I have never done in my entire career, incidentally, to tell somebody that the meeting will not happen right now, I need a little bit of time. But I did that because I realized that the times are such that protecting my personal space is important, and I was also certain that my colleagues will also understand my need for privacy and flexibility at that point in time, because I was not only busy with the lunch arrangements, I was actually doing that myself, as against past times when there would be a cook and a household help to take care of these things. So everywhere, I think we are realizing that some basic human values, which is respect between colleagues, which always used to feature as values in the performance management dictionaries, but now more than ever, I think we have started doing that. When it comes to trust, so in virtual environment, basically, you don't have much of an option but to trust people, but to ensure that, yes, they would be focusing on work. And let me tell you, it is a fact that we are suddenly seeing a kind of new generation, a generation, and I read it somewhere, I'll use that term, so that's Generation R, a generation which is far more resilient and more responsible. So we are not having to tell individual employees that, you should do this, you should do that. People are coming up on their own, devising strategies, doing things the way they should be done, the way they should actually organize the meetings and do their collaborations virtually. They are doing all of that. And I'm very happy to note that. And I think organizations across are noticing that. And thirdly, the communication part. So in times like these, it's extremely important that we keep employees updated on what's going on to the extent possible. Of course, there are a lot of strategic decisions happening. Organizations are trying to, there is a struggle going on about the cash flow management, about how to stay afloat, how the next year targets should look like, how can the performance metrics be revisited and redesigned. So all of that is going on. But in spite of that, if we try to stay connected with employees, that actually goes a long way. So I think even all the traditional industries are also realizing this, and they're also trying to get onto these three pillars of flexibility, trust, and communication more than ever before.
Okay, so resilience, Generation R. So that is something I'm take away from, certainly a takeaway for me. The second question is from Rekha Pillai. In this, most of the question we have received is related to today's situation, COVID related. There are also some questions which are related to natural normal situations. So the second question is related to today's gloom and doom. She asking that in this gloom and doom, while people losing job now, as a leader, can I motivate my team? How can I motivate my team, in this gloom and doom when people are losing their job? What would be your way of dealing with such situations, please?
Right. So yes, Rekha, that's a very important question, and which is why I told Kaushik that, and rather I congratulated him that the way you have designed this entire thing, I see there is a lot of solution focus in your event. And while there are no right and wrong answers to these questions, but yes, we are here to talk about actual real solutions, right? So to your question, Rekha, that in this period of gloom and doom. So actually, Rekha, I would like to borrow a bit from Charles Dickens and his A Tale of Two Cities, those opening lines that were there, and I'll just, juxtapose them to present. So I would like to say that it is the best of times, it is the worst of times. It is the age of wisdom, it is the age of foolishness. It is the epoch of belief and it is the epoch of incredulity. So what I mean, Rekha, is not that times are completely dull. Yes, there is a lot of dullness going around, but there is some brightness as well. For example, Mother Nature is reclaiming what was rightfully hers. So suddenly the pollution and all these things seem to be a thing of the past. We get to know that the mountain peaks, the snow-capped ones are all visible now and they're back in their earlier glory, etc. So there are these positive things. People are again realizing some age-old values of patience, of family network, of being connected with friends, family, etc. So there is a lot of positive things also that we are seeing. However, we are also professionals. And it is a fact that there is a struggle going on to save jobs, to save livelihoods across levels, across functions, across organizations. That's a reality. Now your question is, how do we motivate, right? So Rekha, there are some terms like life, livelihood, inspiration, motivation, commitment. These are very generic terms. The essence of these terms do not change with time. They remain the very same. So what brought a professional into the workforce yesterday, it's the same thing that brings him to work today. It's the sense of earning a livelihood. It's the sense of professional satisfaction and enrichment. Those two things still remain the same. There's no change. And if fundamentally these two things remain the same, then very clearly as leaders, we need to keep telling our people that learn to be more relevant, learn to be more useful, constantly reskill, constantly invest in yourself. Make yourself such a solid professional that the organization can't even think of a situation which is minus you. So that's the level of that's the level of importance and relevance that you create for yourself, and it doesn't happen overnight. So when others will sleep at night, you have to keep toiling and burning the midnight oil to ensure that you know and learn all that is there to know about your craft. So that self investment is extremely important, right? So that's the biggest motivation, I would say, that to stay afloat in this game, it's important that we constantly reskill ourselves, and people should keep doing that. And let me also tell you that sometimes the situation will be very bleak, which is very normal. But then as professionals, we know that in our entire career, right, there are going to be these peaks and troughs. These are bound to be there. So 35 years of career will never ever go with the same flow. The graph will never be same. There will be fluctuations. There are bound to be fluctuations. What is important is right now, even if somebody has to face a negative impact because of the coronavirus induced situation, we have to remember that it's a temporary phase and this too shall pass. So that's the encouragement that we can always keep providing to our teams.
So that's from the perspective of the employees, right? You mentioned that how one can self-motivate
Right.
himself or herself. So how about the leaders? How a leader can motivate his team members in this gloom and doom in this situation?
Okay. So Right. So I think when we talk about leadership,
Yes.
and there are multiple ways of determining who is a good leader, right?
Right.
There are n number of theories, and as many theories as probably the number of people existing in this world. So what can a leader do? I feel that a leader's biggest measure of success would be how he or she influences a follower or a team member, right? And when we talk about influence, it's not only about influence, it is the impact. That as a leader, have I been able to catapult anyone in the team to a level where he or she was not before? Somewhere did we get someone who's a rookie and is now at the highest echelons of corporate ladder, or did we have a very seasoned professional who could be much better than us in that particular area of subject matter expertise, but through our coaching abilities we have helped that person reflect and see some spots which were hidden, and now that makes him a much more accomplished individual than before. So how leaders motivate teams? I would say leaders motivate by creating that impact in the followers' lives, in the team members' lives. So any conversation or any kind of a knowledge enhancement or enriching discussion should leave a team member with a slightly higher level of wisdom than he or she had before. It's sometimes possible, sometimes not. Even the best of people can't do it always, but if we keep that in mind, that every single opportunity to engage with a team member is an opportunity to make that person richer in some way or the other. So I would say that continuous knowledge transfer to the extent possible, that continuous connect and communication to say how valuable the team members are. People perform much better when they know about their value, when they are told that what you do is very important for me and the organization. So that's a message of reinforcement that should keep going constantly to the teams.
Fantastic. So the third question, in the current scenario again, you know, you're talking of the scenario that we are in the current scenario, how do you see recruitment process shaping up in corporates? Video interviews, use of bots, or you think the process would remain unchanged? What is your opinion? How do you look at it?
So I would say, at least in IT industry, when it comes to recruitment, we are much better equipped to deal with these things than probably some of the other industries, because much before also the video interviews, the Skype and Zoom and all of that has been a norm, right? But we must say that over a period of time, we are all learning more technologies, and the digital shift is much more, and today we don't have an option. So we have suddenly got into an optionless situation where automatically we have to ensure that everything is now digitally driven. And let me tell you that the biggest test for recruitment now is to ensure that nothing stops and nothing is completely off the mark when it comes to a benchmark with the earlier processes. So at least in our case, in my organization, all processes remain same, except for the fact that the platforms are right now all digital. We are also doing the online assessments for people, the different kinds of leadership and other functional role assessments. So everything is same as before. Now, when it comes to the usage of bots, not that we are doing it right now, but I must also tell you that our organization has quite a few service offerings which are aligned to Industry 4.0. So when it comes to artificial intelligence and cognitive sciences, or when it comes to robotic process automation, or the research and analytics field and the expertise of that, we use regularly for our climate survey and employee engagement surveys, etc. So for all of these, the kind of usage of technology that we do is phenomenal. So not only recruitment, so these are threads which cuts across all our HR life cycle processes, and we'll continue to do that.
Sorry, I was just asking this question. Anything with regards to the industries outside IT? How do you, any kind of sort of sneak peek how they are going to be adjusting to this situation, adapting to this situation? Anything, any pointers or anything? Any suggestion?
You mean in dealing with the times in general?
No, I'm talking about the interviews taken.
Okay.
How do you look at it? Because yeah, you mentioned that we in the IT industry, I mean, I used to also be part of the IT industry. So in that industry, taking video interviews was a norm. I mean, it was pretty, it was a practice that was done normally. So how do you see that in other industries happening?
So yes, what I'm getting to hear, from my colleagues and students in other industries as well. So video interviews through Skype and Zoom are a norm. And let me tell you, Kaushik, it's not only limited to recruitments now. When it comes to employee engagement or training, everywhere people are using these.
Absolutely.
It's just that sometimes the security issues are a bit compromised. So that's an element which other industries have to keep in mind, that the way IT is equipped to deal with these kinds of security issues that might happen in digital interviews, etc. Are all traditional industries equally equipped? That's for them to review. But I think everybody has jumped onto that bandwagon already.
Okay, that's a good news. Okay, so next is from Viva Lakshmi. She asks that classroom trainings, with regards to trainings, classroom trainings were an effective way to upskill the employees in many organizations. How do you see post-COVID situations vis-a-vis the classroom trainings, how it's going to shape up? Do you see classroom trainings coming back once the dust settles down, or do you think focus would be on online trainings and using more and more technologies? Over to you.
So I'm pretty happy to hear this question, because there was a time when this huge debate used to go on, that classroom training versus e-learning, which one is right? And today, when there is rampant e-learning going on, online training going on, we are bringing back the old school classroom training also. So to your question, Kaushik, I feel there can never be any substitute for classroom training, because I mean, this is my fundamental belief. I might sound old school, but there is no substitute, because there is no substitute for the human energy, the vibrations, the positivity, the dynamics, the co-creation and the co-learning that happens when people sit together in a classroom. Right. All those breakout sessions where people strategize and then again go back to classroom. So these have their own unique flavor, which we cannot replicate in case of online trainings. So I am sure over a period of time, we will see the resurgence of classroom training as well. And my hunch is some of the issues that the HR and L&D professionals used to face in the past, which was the difficulty in getting people into classrooms, probably the difficulty could be less, because there might be an entire flock of professionals who are just waiting to get back to the earlier setup. Right. But having said that, online training is the way forward, and online training also has multiple forms. So we are more and more shifting towards bite-sized learning or micro-learning, because the attention span over a period of time has reduced quite a lot. So gone are those days when people would patiently, sit and watch a 1-hour video. It's all bites, it's all micro. So we see an evolution of that, simply because there are so many of these new things that people are trying, right? The kind of things that we never thought was possible earlier in terms of engagement with even relatives. All that is happening online now, right? Yes. So the trend is here to stay.
Before we go to the next question, those of you who just joined us, you're watching Ask the Icon, a web series designed exclusively for working professionals. I'm your host, Kaushik Majumder, author and workplace challenge consultant. And today our guest Icon is Executive Vice President and CHRO, Chief Human Resource Officers of Datamatics Global Services Limited, Dr. Rima Ghose Chaudhary. So the next question is, 1 second. Okay, the next question is from Satish Pradhan. His question is, how do you see impact on leadership strategies in emerging situations? There is a school of thought that leadership without proximity is not much effective. What would be your suggestion for the leaders while dealing with their teams?
I'll come to that. But my first thought, I got a bit stuck on that line that leadership without proximity may not be of much use. So let me tell you my thoughts on that.
Please.
So some years back, I was invited to be a part of Middlesex University School in UK, London. And there I was a part of their international mentorship program. So which meant that I was a mentor here in India. And that time, I think I was working with Sony or Quinox. So I was here in India, and my student, his name is Kenneth Odo, and he was actually from Nigeria, and he came to study in that school, and he was a brilliant professional, I remember. And then he was doing this management course to upgrade his skills. And I realized over a period of time, after we were we had navigated our individual cultural uniqueness and the norms of engagement over virtual modes, we realized that wherever we are, this concept of leadership is pretty location agnostic or culture agnostic. So if you have something to offer to someone, and if that offering has the capability to inspire and influence that person to be a more successful person, or to be a better human being, to me, that is leadership. Do you have that power to influence and inspire even remotely? If you have that, great. If you don't have that, then no leadership strategy actually works. Now, when we connect remotely in these times of crisis, are there some mantras? Yes, definitely. I would say connect and communicate and repeat. That's the loop that leaders have to keep following again and again. So this connect is extremely important in today's times when people are kind of under house arrest. None of us ever experienced something like this before. We never even imagined, right? This of course calls for a huge amount of connect, because otherwise people are left with that feeling that, am I wanted? Am I really adding value or not? Not that everybody has the same needs of connect, but some people do. And if they are the ones who are your valuable top talent, you should doubly ensure that you are connected and you keep communicating as to what is going on. So I feel one of the basic tenets of leadership, something which is a must and something which never fails anyone, is communication. I'm a strong believer of that. So I would say crisis time or non-crisis times, connect and communicate is my fundamental mantra.
Right. So just quick, if I may add a question. How do you see this is impacting the culture of the organization? This current situation. Do you think there would be any change in culture because of this social distancing, and or is it going to be the same again, like you mentioned in training space? You believe that once the dust settles down, we go back to the classroom session like that. Also, culture would become normal the way it was earlier. How do you see it? Your opinion?
I would say it's too early to comment on the change of workplace culture, but for sure, workplace norms are changing to a great extent. Right. And if you fundamentally look at the definition of culture, what is culture? It's actually a set of shared beliefs, shared values, shared principles, the way we do things here. Right. So the way we do things here is actually the same as the way we used to do things before. When it comes to the fundamental norms of decision making, conflict resolution, power dynamics. So all of those fundamental norms would still be there. Absolutely. Now, in this situation of remote working, are these things creating a completely new culture in an organization? I doubt. I would say the overarching theme is the fact that we are all struggling to move towards the digital culture as smoothly as possible. So that's just one fundamental aspect. Right. But other than that, the underlying principles in an organization as to how an organization operate. Even if I look at McKinsey's the 7S framework, staff, skills, style, shared values, etc., those are all pretty much the same, but it's a new norm of working.
Right. So thank you for taking my question. The question number 6 is Arun Sangvi. He has asked this question. So Arun's question is, based on the media reports, hard decisions by the management are on the cards in many organizations. Once the employees get back, pay cut, bonus and increment freeze, downsizing, etc. How do you see the relationship evolve between employee and employer under these circumstances? What would be your advice to both leadership and the employees of any organization in dealing with this difficult decision? So I was just going through our Facebook, and I see there is a question in the same line from Sumit Yaduvangshi. Because of COVID-19, many companies will collapse and many new opportunities will open up. How to manage this chaos? So I believe they're kind of related questions. So if you can please take that question. Over to you, Dr. Ghose, please.
Yeah, so the question fundamentally is, how do organizations manage this chaos, right?
Yes.
So see, the industry has seen cyclical patterns. The industry has seen ups and downs. If you remember the 2008-2009 meltdown, so all of us have gone through that phase, right? Some have been extremely negatively impacted, some less, but we have gone through that phase. And this is also a phase that is going on, and we'll come out of this as well. But how do we deal with this interim challenge? I would say, Sumit, the golden word here is balance. Somewhere we have to think of balancing of interests. So the business considerations and the people agenda, both have to be balanced. So I would say, even when times are tough and organizations are having to take tough decisions, when it comes to employee needs, when it comes to crisis, emergencies, struggles, I think organizations should still be there with the employees, helping them to tide over that crisis. And somewhere I would also bring in the aspect of sustainable workplaces. For the employers, for organizations, I mean, if I could have the flexibility or the audacity to advise, my advice would be that think of a sustainable workplace, think more in terms of sustainability. So it's not only about dealing with a current crisis. So there are short-term emergencies, and then there is a long-term vision as well, which organizations have to think of. So yes, right now there would be struggles of cash flow management, of staying afloat, etc. But there would also be situations when we have to think of how we are impacting the community, right? How we are dealing with the employees. Is it only a business hat that we are wearing, or is there a human hat also, which is somewhere trying to ease out the pains to some extent in whatever way possible? Right. And I think there was some discussion happening around the fact that what happens to those people who really have to be let go? What should organizations do? And I'll bring up that point here. So in one of the discussions in another forum, what we were recommending is such people should be the first ones to be called back. Maybe even when the notice period is on and we see a new opportunity coming up in the organization, we should have that kind of a smoothness in the relationship, a frictionless relationship, where we also call them back with a good heart and they also come back with a welcome smile on their faces, right? So that's what I would say, that balance is important, and we should not be thinking very, very short term in the current times.
Right. That's the perspective from the employers.
Right.
Right. And how do you see, just briefly, how do you see that employees, how do they look at the relationship between themselves and them and the employers? Would that change? Would that get impacted due to whatever is going to happen because of this COVID?
So, Kaushik, a framework, a model comes to my mind. So remember, employees are bound to an organization by essentially two attachments. One is an emotional attachment and one is a rational attachment, right? So the rational attachment is all about your pay and the policies and the benefits and all of that, right? The basic terms of livelihood. And when it comes to the emotional attachments, it's all about the opportunities that the organization has given you over time. When you came into this organization and where you are now, are you a much better professional? How has this organization enabled you in this entire journey? That entire realization forms a part of the emotional attachment. So I would say now, with so much of time that people have, in some cases, of course, to ponder, to reflect, to introspect, employees will be looking at that emotional attachment as well. Okay, so rational attachment will always be there between any employer and employee, but I think times are forcing us to look at attachment in multiple planes, not only between employee-employer, but also between family members, also between friends, also between estranged acquaintances, right? And somewhere probably we are kind of, reconciling and, bringing back all those emotional attachments.
Absolutely. Okay, so that was the sixth question. Seventh question. I think so far the questions that we have received are I like those questions.
Absolutely, I must say the questions have so much of variety, and while answering them, I was also considering myself extremely fortunate that I got a bit of time to introspect on these questions, because in the mad rush that goes on, you're hardly able to do these introspections yourselves.
True. So the seventh question is from Anindita Karmakar. She is asking, there are many organizations decided to cut down or stop campus recruitment, freshers intake this year. There are reports on the news. So what would be your suggestion to the freshers who see their career is in jeopardy even before it has taken off? Yeah.
So first of all, I would like to tell you, Anindita, that as an organization, we have taken a conscious call to not take back any offer that we made in the campus to any summer intern, right? To any intern. So incidentally, they're all in the organization, they're onboarded. And I know that wherever there is an opportunity to onboard freshers, we'll do that again. So I feel, to the extent possible, organizations must try to protect the interests of the interns to the extent possible. And probably I'm a little biased towards that community, considering my past stint of professor. But I sincerely feel that organizations should not take back offers to the extent possible from the interns. Now, in the unfortunate event that an offer has been taken back, what does an intern do? What does a fresher do? So I would say now is the time to, like I was mentioning earlier, so now is the time even for the freshers to build and upgrade their skills. And I have actually told this to multiple people, that even if an organization doesn't give you a project, there are multiple ways in which you can figure out projects for yourselves. There are multiple courses that are available. There is Udemy, and there are so many learning courses, etc., free of cost courses. There are webinars, etc., that are going on. What stops you from attending a webinar and then, creating probably a survey out of it? Excuse me, just give me a moment. Sorry. So what stops you from maximizing the opportunity, from connecting with the industry network that you have, finding out your own questions, getting the answers, and putting it all together to make a very solid offering, something which you can present to your college back? So there are these ways and means in which freshers can still keep themselves occupied. And there is a lot of power these days in social media. Keep reaching out to the industry professionals who might be able to accommodate some request for internships. And till that time, remember, don't lose hope. These are just phases, and we all go through that. And it's okay if at times you deal with the difficult phases
Yeah.
in the start of the career. Probably that will make you far more resilient to deal with the challenges that you will face later. So my message to the freshers would be that don't lose hope. There are still so many things that you can do. You must focus on utilizing the time properly.
Okay, so we have 10 more minutes and we got 2 more questions to cover. Probably we can, yeah, 2 more
I
questions.
never realized how time flew.
Yeah, true. Absolutely, especially the questions are so good that.
Yes.
So next question is from Inwin Ijuel. So one of my favorite questions: what would do HR differently to ensure the human touch and empathy while dealing with employees once they're back? Anything? HR?
Yeah, when employees are back. So we must remember one thing, that things are not going to be the same as before, at least initially, for quite some time.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that will change, or that has to change, is the mindset. So the mindset has to go through a transformation. At some point, we'll all go to office, but we'll be our masked selves. We may not be able to do those large gatherings like we used to do earlier. So somewhere that warmth would be missing, that human touch would be missing. But then how to deal with that? I would say for this, I would again, depend on the very, very inherent nature of mankind and our ability to bounce back. We have to know that this is a temporary period. And with our agile and dynamic selves, we should be able to get back again. Now, here, if I have to talk about, if I really had to give a solution, I can think about, again, a model, and I tend to think in those terms more, probably being a researcher. But this is something which way back in, when I was working with Sony, they had sent me for a train the trainer program in UK. And the idea of the program was energy principles. So the principle was that while your time is finite, there are only 24 hours in a day, but your energy can be infinite. Your energy can be infinite if you are able to bring in a great balance between 4 quadrants of your life. What are those? So there is physical quadrant, emotional quadrant, mental quadrant, and spiritual quadrant. So when all these quadrants of life are balanced, the kind of feeling of peace that you have as an employee, as a professional, that is unparalleled. So there are ways and means to achieve that balance in life. So if I really have to do something around it, I would say, to bring back the human touch, I would focus on aligning these 4 quadrants of life for the employees. So when it comes to physical quadrants, it's nothing but ensuring that all of your diet and nutrition and sleep and all of it is in harmony and you're doing the right things, right? When it comes to the emotional quadrant, it's about acknowledging and appreciating the work, or rather the contribution that a colleague puts in your life, right? When it comes to mental quadrant, it's about focus. How much focused are you at the job at hand, or are you getting easily distracted?
Yeah.
When it comes to spiritual quadrant, it's about that space where you are able to reflect and introspect and see what is it that you stand for. Are you living your life by the values that you had set out for yourself, or have you deviated somewhere? So these kinds of sessions, programs, contact sessions with employees will definitely help. Even right now, some time back only, we concluded a marathon series of Employee Connect programs. We had termed that socially distanced yet mentally connected. So this was nothing but connecting with employees at a platform where we find out how people are doing, what's going on in their lives, their unique lockdown stories, and how best can they bring in this balance between the various quadrants of life. So we need to think of all these age-old wisdoms as we go forward to get life back to that earlier normalcy.
Yep, yep. So the 9th question, which is from Rishikesh Singnewar. We are currently, he's from IT. So we are currently in an economic slowdown similar to 2008, which had a huge impact on the IT environment. Since we have also entered in a stage where AI and automation is predominant, what should be the focus of IT service companies to ensure security of the jobs of the people? What would be the people's focus forward? This is from Rishikesh Singnewar. Over to you, Dr. Ghose.
Okay, so I'll answer this, Rishikesh, and just for an additional reference, in case we are connected on LinkedIn or you happen to see my profile, you can check out a post that I had put up. This was from an interview of mine with Business World after a conference, which was around artificial intelligence and how it's an enabler. So let me tell you, Rishikesh, again, a couple of things. So job security as a term is quite passive. So gone are the times when we would join, you know, like our fathers and forefathers, where you join an organization and you retire from there. And it happens, it's applicable both ways, you know, the employer and employee can both think that this need not be such a long-term association. And at some point, you can't blame any party. There could be multiple factors which can make each of them come to that conclusion. So the only thing that will take us forward is to acknowledge what's going on in the market. It is a fact that artificial intelligence has changed the way we look at things. It's helping us in multiple ways. And like I was mentioning earlier, it's cutting across every domain of HR, be it recruitment, be it employee engagement, performance management, etc. Even when it comes to the relationship that organizations have with clients or customers, there is a possibility of artificial intelligence and cognitive sciences to do all these sentiment analysis, and they can tell you where exactly you stand vis-a-vis a customer. So it's high time that we start looking at artificial intelligence as an enabler. So it's not an either or, it's an and. And the sooner we realize that this is something which has come as an aid for us, because in itself, a machine cannot do anything. There has to be human brains around which propels the machine to think and act in a certain direction, right? And the creator will always have more power any day, something which I heard even the first humanoid, Sophia, mentioned in a convention in IIT as well as India Economic Forum, which was organized by Times Group. So the creator will always have more power. So we as professionals will always have more power to decide how we use these tools and how they can aid in the improvement of our processes. So there will always be a lot of roles for us, only the roles will change over time. A simple scenario of, you know, the kind of jobs that you get to see today, did they all exist 5 years back? They did not. So it has changed, but it's there.
True, true. So the last question, because 6 more minutes, and the last question is from Anand Kumar. His question is, how do you deal with your members in your team who are not convinced with your solution to a particular problem? So you have to take them along. What would be the way forward? What is your suggestion or opinion about it? How do you deal with your members in your team who are not convinced with your solution to a particular problem? Over to you, Dr. Ghosh, please.
So my question would be, why do people always have to get convinced with my solution?
True.
It shouldn't it be okay for people to not get convinced at times and come up with a counterpoint? What's wrong with that? So at least that's the belief that I come from. I would never ever shut an opinion from coming towards me, and at times that suggestion that someone else has could be better than mine. And if I see merit in somebody else's solution, and if I see that mine is not convincing enough, then I'm happy to change gears. And I think, again, there is one belief that I have, that if everybody believes in the same thing, then, or rather, if everybody agrees to the same thing, then somebody is not thinking. You know, so then the thinking job has been delegated to one person, and others are happy to not think. So that's what I feel. And also there is this phenomenon, Kaushik, and people can look up on internet for this. So there is this phenomenon called groupthink. So there have been disasters. There is a disaster incident of NASA that was reported, and that was the groupthink scenario. At times in a group, when somebody has a differing opinion and does not speak it out because it's more as per norm to sound convinced with what the leader had to say, then that can have very, very negative repercussions. So look up this groupthink, NASA groupthink phenomenon that had happened. It's a case study that comes up in management schools, etc. So I would say if people are not convinced at times, it's fine. And if you have to get them convinced, then it's very, very important that you talk from a position of data and logic.
Right.
So as Datamatics tagline says, data to intelligence. So we are bombarded with whole lot of data around us. And if we can wield that power of data rightly, then we will be having a much more intelligent world where probably the convincing will become much easy.
So the viewers, I'm sure Dr. Ghosh's answers have given you clarity, provided solutions to your challenges, and clear all your doubts. Those of you who have missed the entire interview, joined in the middle or missed the interview from the beginning, can watch the full interview on my YouTube channel, Kaushik Majumder, the Process Pro. From tomorrow, I'm going to upload the recorded version of this interview. So now, viewers, you know the drill, yes. So please go ahead, hit the like and share button. And if you have liked this interviews, I have been benefited immensely, and I believe you guys are also. So please go ahead and hit the like and share button for regular updates. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon. So for any comments and suggestions and any questions for the icons, please use the comment section now. Now the time is for the surprise gift for the standout question of the week. So Dr. Ghosh, I need your help over there. Would you please tell us the one question of the day that you found either most innovative or relevant or interesting that you found today, please?
I would say more than interesting, I would pick up the point on relevance in today's times.
Okay.
So the question that was about how do we bring in that humane touch, and how do we make the workplace same as before when we get back to work? So
Right.
that's the question which made me think the most. And that's the question which probably we will grapple with the most going forward, that how do we get back to that normalcy? So that's the question which, something that made me think the most, to my mind, would be the best question.
Right. So it's Inwin Joel. So Inwin, you'll get this surprised, amazing gift by tomorrow evening. You're going to get that. So thank you very much, Dr. Ghosh, for your time and addressing the concerns of the working professionals. Any closing comments from your side, please?
Closing comments. Well, I think our roles have evolved a lot over a period of time, not only for us HR professionals, and I can see that evolving constantly. I used to do HR. I still do HR, but I do so much of sustainability these days.
Yep.
So that's an evolution. And I'm sure in everybody's sphere, there is this change that is happening.
Yep.
And all that I can say is a rolling stone gathers no moss. So keep changing yourself, keep evolving, keep trying to add value and try to stay relevant as much as possible in today's time. Be the support that people want you to be the enabler that you want you to be, and try to make the workplace such that it's very difficult to imagine that workplace without you.
So words of wisdom. Thank you very much, Dr. Ghosh. So viewers, looking forward to see you in the next episode of Ask Icon with another interesting perspective and lots of clarity and learnings. Till then, with the icon, Dr. Rima Ghose Chaudhary, this is Kaushik Majumder, wishing a very good weekend ahead. Take care of yourself, and thank you for watching Ask the Icon. And last but not the least, please keep your question coming. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kaushik. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and thank you to all the audience over here today. Stay safe, everybody. Bye.